Right, good evening everybody. I make it 7:30, just so I think we'll make a start. Welcome to Higham Ferris. Sorry, I'll start again. Welcome to Higham Ferris Town Council virtual meeting. There are a few housekeeping rules to note. As with meetings in the town hall, members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak during public participation, but will not be permitted to speak at other times, and their microphones will be muted. The clerk has the ability to mute or remove anyone who does cause a nuisance, but of course we hope that this won't be necessary. It is impossible to hear if everyone speaks at once. So that we have some order, I would be grateful if you would speak one at a time and raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Voting will be by raising of hands. The meeting is being recorded. The first item on the agenda are apologies. Sandra, have we got any apologies?
Councillor Anna Saunson, Councillor Sheila Mantle, Councillor David Hamlin and Councillor Derek Lawson. He was going to try to get on today, but I know he's had some issues with his phone line, which I've been trying to help him with, and he's not here.
Okay.
So.
And I'm sure that we all send our best wishes to those members that are actually poorly, and particularly Sheila, who's just been taken poorly. So, the second item on the agenda are declarations of interest. To receive declarations of disposable pecuniary interests and the nature of those interests relating to items on the agenda. Has anybody got anything they wish to declare? Councillor Smithers?
Sorry, looking for the unmute button there, Madam Mayor. Yeah, item 15, just another interest as portfolio holder for Highways County Council.
Thank you. And Councillor Thomas?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm declaring an interest, excuse me, I'm declaring an interest in item 18 as I'm involved with East Northants Council's consultation, and therefore I don't think I should take part in this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I haven't missed anybody. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Jackson.
Got to unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Right. Actually, I don't think I've got anything in the minutes that because of the member of the East Northants, but if there is, then I'd like to declare an interest, my normal interest. But at this moment in time, I can't see anything that I should declare an interest on.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Item 3 on the agenda are the minutes. To approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of September 2020, which is on pages 1 to pages 7 in your agenda pack. Has everybody looked at the minutes and checked them? Right.
Yeah.
Can I, Councillor Whiting, you're on mute. Are you proposing that we accept them?
Yeah. Yeah. Propose that.
Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gardner. And all those in favour, will you please show your hands? Right, thank you. Right, I've signed the minutes. I shall hand them in tomorrow. Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is public forum, to allow any member of the public to address the meeting for a period of no longer than 3 minutes each. If the item raised by the member of the public is not on the agenda, the clerk will advise how the issue will be followed up. No decision can be taken under this item. Have we got anybody wishing to speak, Sandra?
Got no members of the public on the meeting.
Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda are mayor's announcements. Right. In August, we were approached by Paul Parsons, the High Sheriff of Northampton, about the possibility of his visiting our town. I had a lot of discussions with Sandra and Emily with the ever-changing COVID restrictions in mind about the safest way in which we could offer him a constructive and informative tour. On Tuesday the 13th of October, the place took visit. Councillor Pam Whiting and I took him first to St Mary's Church, where we were met by Reverend Michelle Dolliston and Richard Oberman. We had a very informative walk around the church and then proceeded to Bede House. We then crossed over to Chicheley College, where we were met by Liz Brown and Carol Fitzgerald. He was very interested in the display in Chicheley College and spent quite some time looking at the photographs. He was also able to meet some of the volunteers working in the gardens. At the end of his visit, Carol presented him with a copy of Brenda Lofthouse and Gwen Tobin's book, Higham Ferris, 1251 to 1914. He was delighted. He was extremely interested in the history of our town and found it most impressive that we still have our bedesmen and women. In his email of thanks, he calls the church, Bede House and Chicheley College outstanding buildings to visit. His visit was COVID-19 compliant, with never more than 6 people being together and all socially distanced, and masks were worn when we were indoors and hand sanitisation available in all areas. My thanks go to all of those who were involved, particularly Pam, who had to do a larger share of the hosting as I wasn't very mobile on that day, and to Sandra, who as chief photographer had to keep popping out of the office as she was alone in the office. And also to Emily, who, although on holiday on the day, had so impressed the High Sheriff with her organisational skills. He mentioned her at least twice. So many thanks to all of those concerned. Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda, sorry, item 6 on the agenda is the Town Clerk's report, which is on page 8 in your agenda pack. Have you got anything you want to talk about there, Sandra?
No, I mean, the only thing I'd like to add, you've all had an update on the Remembrance Day. It's going to be a very low-key event, and let's hope we don't get too many members of the public turn up. We have sent messages out through the schools, and there'll be posters going up as well in the next week, just to remind people that it isn't a public event.
Right. Thank you. So could we receive, somebody proposed that we receive Sandra's report. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. And seconder, please.
Madam Mayor, Alicia was indicating to talk there.
Oh, sorry. Where is Alicia? Oh, sorry, Alicia.
No, sorry, just through the chair. Sandra, did you want me to say anything with regard to Sparkle and projection?
Yes, actually, that would be quite useful. Because we've got a bit of an update. There's a bit of a logistical problem that we are going to have to meet with the working group next week about. Do you want to go ahead, Licia?
Yeah, sorry, just to explain, the working party for Sparkle events are having a meeting on Monday. We had a demonstration on Tuesday evening, Emily and myself, with regard to the projection element of the alternative Sparkle proposals, and the projection to the town hall central window, which was what was planned, was not quite how we thought it would be. So we had another demonstration with regard to projection onto a screen in the market square, and we're also looking at LED lighting for buildings. But just to make you aware that there was an issue with the projection demonstration, and that there is a meeting of the working party to try and work through and decide the best way to go forward on that.
Thank you, Alicia. Right. Now may we receive the town clerk. Oh, Councillor Prigmore, you're waving at us. You're on mute, Councillor Prigmore.
Just to make sure that everybody's aware, and Sandra, the Environmental and Recreation Grounds Committee is on Tuesday the 10th of September, and the full council is on Tuesday the 24th of September. I tell you that they're type errors.
Yes, apologies for that.
Yeah, I mean, any member of the public that looks on the agenda will see that there is no meeting. So, okay, thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Prigmore. Right, now may I have a proposer, please? It's the third time. Councillor Jackson, could anybody second that for me, Councillor Prigmore? And all those in favour of receiving the Town Clerk's report, please show your hands. Right, thank you. Item 7 on the agenda are questions. An opportunity for councillors to ask questions pursuant to Standing Order 9. Questions must relate to business of the Town Council and not be related to items of business on the agenda. Every question shall be put and answered without discussion. Has anybody got any questions they'd like to raise? Councillor Prigmore.
Reference the poppies that have been placed on the town. There don't seem to be any poppies placed past the Market Square towards White's Garage. Is there any reason for this?
The poppies are put in place by the British Legion. They're not something the Town Council does.
Right,
so
okay.
I don't know if they haven't got enough or whether this year they just decided to put it at a smaller scale.
Right, okay, thank you.
Item 8 on the agenda are reports of representatives to other bodies. To receive reports from councillors on meetings they have attended as representatives to other bodies. Councillor Gardner, you're going to talk about when you went to a JAG meeting, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Both Councillor Jackson and I attended JAG on the 20th of October. The priorities of JAG were to be kept the same, focusing on the drinking and antisocial behaviour. Also, the police reported that many drug warrants had been executed and they were happy with the results of those, but have reported that obviously due to COVID-19 there is a backlog in the court system at the moment, but everything is going through and being processed. Councillor Jackson, do you wish to add anything?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. I just want to please report on PCSO and myself had our monthly walk around Higham. PCSO has made contact with the Ferriers schools and Rushton Academy. Rushton Academy was felt needed at this time because we have a large population of youth going down now as first preference to Rushton Academy rather than the Ferriers at the moment. So that's why that's been included. We had a fantastic response from the Ferriers school and also have gone through the clerk on this, that they are very keen at the moment to have more positive relations within our community, and PCSO has made contact with them and have been talks with their community liaison and community officers. And as far as antisocial behaviour and things like that, at the moment, we are lucky enough to be relatively quiet on the Western Front, she said. So that was my monthly report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 19th of October, I attended the Rushton East meeting held by Teams. To be frank, I do not think the project has moved any more forward than the last two meetings. Connectivity was requested, but Gavin Sylvester, Development Management Officer, said the developer promises 2 footbridges and possibly upgrade the existing footbridge, if possible, that is. Richard Palmer, Planning Policy and Conservation Manager, plans to investigate what finance will be available for infrastructure. A question was asked by Councillor David Brackenbury, asked how much information will be given in the first application plan. Answer by Roy Pinnock, partner, as much as possible. Paul Bland, Head of Planning Services, said, where to next? Both councils must meet with the developer to find out what 106 funding is required, but it must be viable. You do not get 106 funding from B8s or new homes bonus, so Higham is going to somehow miss out. They then spent a lot of time worrying what power the Duchy had over the project. The developer plans to submit the planning application late October. It is late October. All these and a lot more questions should have been asked some time ago. I rest my case.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. You sound very frustrated. Right. I'm going to talk about the NCALC AGM that I attended virtually, of course. So there was no bacon rolls, but we did see a picture of one floating across the screen. But Councillor Gordon and myself attended. We listened to two guest speakers. One was Lucy Whiteman, who's the Director of Public Health, NCC, and the second was Mary Jane Brown, a Community Connector of Moulton PC. Lucy Reitman, and I'm sure most of you have seen her recently on local TV, giving us news of our latest updates with regard to the county and COVID-19. Lucy gave a presentation about delivering public health for North and West Northamptonshire. Public health statutory duties are health improvement of the local population and reduced health inequalities, health protection, that's the plan for and response to emergencies, and healthcare public health to advise the NHS and other parties in population need. After April 1st, 2021, all services provided by NCC, district and borough councils will be brought together under the two new unitary authorities. It is currently proposed that the public health team will be hosted in North Northamptonshire and provide services across both authorities. The Director of Public Health will lead the service and provide a system-wide leadership role with integrated care system. This is where the NHS and commissioners and local authorities work in partnership. Health inequalities exist across the whole life cycle from birth to old age. To ensure that towns, villages, communities and the economy are all having a positive impact on health and well-being and not limiting residents' ability to thrive, we can employ an approach known as health in policies. Community-centred ways of working are important for all aspects of public health, including health improvement, health protection, healthcare, public health. The second speaker was Mary Jane Brown. She is a community connector for Moulton and surrounding areas. In 2016, Moulton PC, in partnership with Moulton GP Surgery, unveiled a health and wellbeing strategy for the area. It was the first in the county. They have 4 priorities: children, every child gets a better start; taking responsibility and making informed choices; promoting independence and quality of life for older residents; creating an environment for people to flourish. The Community Connector works in collaboration with the surgery's social link worker to support residents manage their well-being by signposting to relevant organisations, classes and groups. She also encourages the development of new groups and oversees the volunteers. The aim is to reduce isolation, build the community, and to help manage and prevent major conditions from developing. Social prescribing is a way of helping people to manage their own mental and physical health by signposting them to community-run services such as leisure groups, classes, social groups, and health lifestyle advice. There are 5 signposts to wellbeing: help, support, advise, guide, and assist. Every GP surgery that our residents would attend have got a social link worker. This is something that I learned on October the 3rd. It's a role that I didn't know actually existed. It's been quite difficult for me to condense the 2 presentations from which took part in a 2-hour meeting to just a few minutes. But if anybody wants to actually see the full presentation, I have a copy, and so has Sandra, and I think Angela too. So if anybody wants one, just contact others. But it was a very, very informative meeting to go to. So, but thank you for listening. Item 9 on the agenda are reports from district councillors and the county councillor to receive written reports from the ward district councillors and the county councillor. We haven't received any written reports. So item 10 on the agenda is finance, and 10.1 to approve accounts for payment as of the 27th of October, which is on page 9 in your agenda pack, and you received an update today. Has everybody had a chance to look at the, could I have a proposal that we receive them, please?
A proposal that we've received as full.
Thank you, Councillor Prigmore. A seconder, please. Councillor Gardner, and all those in favour, would you please show hands? Thank you. 10.2 is to approve the bank account reconciliation as at the 30th of, was it 31st of October? Is that September, Sandra? I've got.
Yes, it is, yeah.
It's September. Sorry, the 30th of September 2020. Councillor Whiting, have you checked this?
Have, Madam Mayor, yeah, and as usual, it's down correct to the penny. So I will sign those and take them back to the town hall tomorrow.
Right, so Councillor Whiting has proposed. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Jackson, and all those in favour, would you please show hands? Thank you. 10.3, to receive and note the budget report as at the 30th of September 2020, which is on pages 10 to 14 in your agenda pack.
Can I just say, I am just starting to work on budgets for the next financial year. So if anybody's got anything they particularly want to be considered for inclusion, if they could let me know. I would say that the budget that is under pressure is tree works, and that's simply because we've had to have quite a bit of emergency tree works due to the high winds and rain we've had when the trees have been in full leaf, which has caused more damage than normal. So that'd be probably one budget policy and resources we'll have to look to increase this year.
Okay, thank you. Right. Could I have a proposal that we receive the budget, please? Councillor Jackson, and seconded by Councillor Thomas. All those in favour, would you please show hands? All right, thank you. Item 11 on the agenda are committee meetings. So 11.1 is to receive and adopt the minutes of the following committees: Planning and Development Committee held on the 13th of October, and these will be presented by Councillor Gardner, and you'll find them on pages 15 to 17 in your agenda pack.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. To receive the minutes of the Planning and Development Committee held on the 13th of October. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you very much. I take you straight down to Planning 5.1, which is 20/01048 FUL, which was the change of use from A1 retail to C3 residential apartment unit at 1A Wolf Road. Yes,
declare an
you
interest
can.
in that? I forgot that was on the agenda. Sorry. I could declare an interest in that other interest.
Okay, thank you. It was resolved that the development is not considered appropriate. There is no car parking space allocated to the apartment, and it's the busy street corner location in the town centre, which limits the availability of nearby parking. I'll take you straight down to 20/01091/FUL, which was the first floor rear bathroom extension and single story rear extension, removal of chimney and new render finish to complete rear elevation at 87 Kimbolton Road in Higham. It was resolved that the council has no objection to ENC seeking prior approval to the colour of the render of the property.
Sorry, could I just jump in again,
Yeah.
Angela Rees? Sorry, can I also declare another interest in the 4 Higham Road development as well, as I have another interest in that? Sorry.
Okay, thank you. 20/01174/FUL, the erection of new rugby club house with 4 playing pitches, provision of new access road from existing roundabout, including creation of new pedestrian crossing, 3-metre wide shared footway and cycleway on adjacent highway. This is a resubmission of 19/01974/FUL at the land of A6 roundabout at Bedford Road. And it was resolved that the council has no objection, subject to any permission, including the conditions recommended by Sport England, and also subject to the widening of the existing spur road on the Bedford Road roundabout to improve access to the site. 20/00445/FUL, which is the submission of an amended detail, creation of 34 flats and 3 dwellings, demolition of some buildings on site, change of routes, use of the majority of the site from retail to residential at 4 Higham Road. And you'll see that we have stuck to our original comments on that. 5.2 is a list of your determinations, and they are all there for you. Item 6 was the car park at Henry Chicheley School. And that's to receive the update and discuss the use of the open space by Henry Chicheley School for parking for parents. And resolve that the council support the opening of the car park at lunchtime. That with only 1 full-time member of staff and many councillors in the at-risk and vulnerable category for COVID-19, the council cannot be expected to help with the managing of parking, but the council support the use of traffic kiddie signs for car park if the school wish to purchase them. On item 7 is items to report. And I do want to highlight the last one. We have had some GoPro cameras on lampposts. So if all councillors are out and about and they do see them, please may they be reported. They're usually about 10 foot in the air. They are high resolution GoPro cameras that are on some lamp posts. So I'm going to ask for questions. This Councillor Prigmore already has his hands up. Councillor.
Item 6, please, Councillor. Do I
Yeah.
take it from that the council had been asked to provide volunteers for the parking of the vehicles?
Yes, yes. In one conversation with the bursar of the school, I don't know whether she thought we had a massive staff contingency, but she just asked if anybody could go down there, and I pointed out I was the only full-time person and the only one there at that time, and that it was perhaps not appropriate for councillors to be going down there anyway, not on a regular basis.
No. So I take it that they would be expecting us to go on a regular basis. They do understand that we actually do volunteer for the council.
Yes, that's what I explained to them.
Right, okay, thank you.
And again, PCSO has offered any help in that discussion to move that along. Anybody? Councillor Thomas. You're on mute.
I'd like to ask a question about the cameras you talk of.
Yeah.
Do we know who puts them there, and what would be
No,
the
we don't.
reason for them being there?
No, we don't. We don't know who puts them there. We don't know the reason. So if any sightings could be reported so that can be investigated, it would be a great deal of help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe 4.4 will invoke my normal response regarding the East North End because of the Higham Road, the flats. Possibly I'll leave it to our chair to decide whether I should be putting my full mention about the East Northants.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Clerk.
All I would say is the decisions have been taken by the committee on these planning applications. So really, you're getting a report on the minutes and you're approving them. So I don't see any reason why you can't take part in the vote on receiving and adopting the minutes.
In that case, if there are no questions, I move adoption of these minutes. Can I have a proposer for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Spence. And a seconder? All those in favour? Councillor Smithers?
Perhaps he wants to.
I'm just abstaining from the vote.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. 11.2 is Policy and Resources Committee held on the 13th of October 2020. It's on pages 18 and 20 in your agenda, 18 to 20 in your agenda pack. Right. So I propose that we receive the minutes. Would somebody second that for me, please? No, Councillor Redding. All those in favour, please show hands. Thank you. Right, I'm going to go through the resolve to recommend. If you go down to item 5, it's a review of policies and resolve to recommend that all of the following policies, which are as listed in your agenda, are reviewed without change. I propose that we review them without change. Would anybody second that, please? Councillor Jackson, all those in favour, would you please show hands? Right, thank you. Right, item 6, that was resolved. Actually, it's item 7, it's the card payments. That the council purchase an iSettle card machine at the cost of £29 so that card transactions can be accepted. The cost per transaction is 1.75% and 2.5% for remote payments via a web link. Did you want to talk about this at all, Sandra?
No, I mean, it's a recommendation. Unless any councillor's got any questions, it should just be voted on.
Right. So, Councillor Smithers.
One thing I'll just say that your report doesn't include on that is just that there will be some PCI DCSS costs if you're doing web transactions through a virtual terminal, typing them in through a computer. That computer will also need to undergo tests to ensure that it sits securely behind a firewall, so can't hold the data, can't be compromised. So you might want to bear that into consideration when taking payments through a what they call a virtual PDQ, which goes through obviously a computer web browser interface.
Okay.
Right, thank you. Right, can I propose that the recommendation is approved? Could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Jackson, and all those in favour, will you please show hands? All right, thank you. Item 8 is waste disposal, and this is there's an 8.1. I'm going to do it as 8.1, 8.2 because they're quite different, aren't they? So 8.1, propose to recommend that the council purchase a higher tier waste carriers licence at the cost of £154 for the first 3 years and £105 for each 3-year period thereafter. This would enable the park wardens to remove fly tipping from council-owned land and carry litter from other sites. Have I got a seconder for that? Sorry, Councillor Jackson.
Yes, well, I was going to propose that we actually do, we should have had this right from the very start, because if what,
Yeah,
we should, otherwise we're making our town board.
yeah. I think what's happened is that we've looked into it, and this is what has been decided that we should definitely have it. We're just sort of formalising it
So
now.
I'm seconding it.
You second it, right? Thank you. And all those in favour, would you?
Councillor Smithers has got his hand
Councillor
up.
Smithers.
Yeah, sort of wave to you there, Madam Mayor, to get your attention. Yeah, I would just exercise some caution around the clearing up of fly tipping on council land. It's not as simple as sending 2 guys along in a van to take a load of rubbish that's been fly tipped. That has to be analysed to ensure that there's no toxic waste, no hazardous waste in there. So there would need to be a policy drawn up to ensure that the staff are suitably protected and trained so they understand what waste is sitting there. There could be asbestos, there could be all sorts. And so it's not as simple as sending 2 park wardens down there. So I guess really
it's
we
that
need
sort
to...
of fly tipping, Councillor Smith. I think it's like when we get like the odd scooter propped against a bin, things like that. Sometimes,
Yeah,
sometimes at this Chapel Gates, we get a couple of bags of rubbish with a scooter or something.
I do actually acknowledge what Councillor Smithers is saying, though, but we do need to be very clear in the guidelines that we give them and write down. Yeah.
I'll leave that down to you.
Yeah.
Right. So I propose that we go with the recommendation that the council purchase a higher tier waste carriers licence. So could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Thomas, and all those in favour, would you please show hands? Thank you. And 8.2 is that the council enter a 12-month contract for a 660 litre waste bin with a fortnightly collection at the cost of £273. Right. Has anybody got any questions about this? Councillor
Yes.
Saunders?
Just ask where it's going to be positioned through the clerk, Madam Mayor, if we could.
The assistant clerk's been looking into that, so I would like to pass this one on to her to come up with a.
Yeah, sorry, we haven't.
Madam Mayor, through the assistant clerk.
There are two options that we're looking at. One is to the rear of the cemetery chapel, and the other is by the pavilion building, possibly chained to the railings. When we go into the contract, we'll discuss that with the company just to make sure that the access requirements meet their needs as well. So they're the two locations being considered.
Okay.
Just be mindful to keep it away from buildings, because these bins have an unfortunate habit of being set on fire by bored
Right.
individuals. So just be.
Councillor Jackson?
My first question was going to be, where will it be sited? Secondly, these rear of Cemetery Chapel, I don't think it's only a single gate alongside the Cemetery Chapel, so you wouldn't get it through that gate. You'd have to do alterations. The only alternative would be the pair of double gates, but even then it would end up, I would have thought it should have gone down somewhere where the cricket club always, or no, sorry, it's the bowls club, isn't it? Their bin, they always put it down at the bottom on the end of the pavilion, but away from the, I take obviously Councillor Jason's point that they do get torched. So the central thing is to keep it well away from buildings. So the central thing is where the lorry can actually back up close to it and then just hook it up. So that is down by the small car park entrance alongside that panel of fencing.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, is it, Councillor Prigmore?
It does seem to me that when this was discussed at the Policy and Resources Committee, it wasn't actually decided where the bin would be. So there'd be no point in going into entering a contract when we don't even know where the bin is going to be. So I would like to say that we should be looking to first decide where the bin's going to be, and then bring it back to council to decide if we're going to do it or not. Because at the moment we don't seem to have anywhere that the bin, nobody seems to know where the bin should be placed.
Councillor Jackson?
I would have thought that would have been the most sensible place to position it, because if it's suitable for the bowls club's bin, in fact, it was quite handy for the travellers when they were using our car park to dispose of all their rubbish in it. They've had no problems with siting them there. So what is wrong with the town council's bin being placed there? The sooner we get that bin sorted out and arriving, then we can start saving money. Thank you.
Councillor Prigmore?
My question would be, why was this not decided wherever it was going to be placed at the Policy and Resources Committee meeting, rather than just deciding that you're going to go ahead with the contract?
The location of the bin was in the report. The two possible options was in the report. That was to be left to officers to liaise with the waste contract company as to where it went.
Right, anybody else have any questions? So is your proposal on the table, Councillor Prigmore, that you don't want to discuss this until we've cited it, or can we go ahead?
If it's been decided that it has been decided where it's going to be, and it was discussed within the Policy and Resources Committee, but it's actually not in the minutes of the agenda, then I'm perfectly happy to go with it. But I just want to know that it just seems to me that nobody discussed where it was going to go. If Sandra is happy with that it's going to be placed in the correct position, then I'm fine with the proposal as it stands.
Both locations that have been highlighted were the ones that were in the report, went to Policy and Resources. obviously it is one that we have to look at the logistics of, and I also am quite conscious that you don't want it right adjacent to a building because of the fire risk of it, and it also needs to be chained up, and so it is a matter of talking to the company about the logistics of them unlocking the chains to be able to enter it, because we can't leave it unchained in a public place.
Councillor Prigmore.
Can I put a proposal forward then that we leave it to Sandra under her delegatory powers to liaisons with the company in the first instance, and then to come up with a suitable area where it is going to be placed, and then agree the contract.
I'll second that.
Thank you. So are you happy with that, Sandra?
Yes.
Right, all those in favour then, would you please show hands? Right, thank you. Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? You're abstaining, Councillor Thomas?
Yes.
Yes, right, thank you. Right. I propose that the minutes from the Policy and Resources Committee be adopted. Could I have
have item 9?
Item 9. That's resolved.
Oh, right, sorry.
So I propose that the minutes from the Policy and Resources Committee be adopted. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Thomas, and all those in favour, would you please show hands? Right, thank you.
Just one thing, Lady Mayor. I've lost most of the people off the screen. I don't know if anybody else has, but
I can see everybody, but
oh, right, okay. It's just my internet then my laptop. That's fine. I can see you, and that's fine as long as you can see me.
oh no,
I'm okay.
I can see you.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Item 12 on the agenda is the external audit 2018 to 2019. To receive and note the external. Is that a misprint?
Yes, it is. It's 1920 as in the actual item.
Yeah, I thought so. But to receive and note the external auditor's report and conclusion of audit 2019-2020, which is on pages 21 in your agenda pack. Could I have a proposal that we receive it, please? Has anybody got any questions about it? Sorry. Councillor Prigmore, you propose that we receive it?
Yes, I propose that we receive it as stated.
And a seconder, please. Councillor Gardner, and all those in favour, would you please show hands? Thank you. Right, item 13 on your agenda is the review of delegated powers to extend the time period of the delegated powers given to the clerk as a response to the COVID-19 outbreak. Review date will now be January 2021. Could I have a proposal? Sorry, Councillor Prigmore.
Yeah, I'll propose that we have put the review date as January 2021 and not January 2020 as stated.
Yes, I did actually state 2021.
Yeah, but the minutes state 2020.
Yeah. Right. Councillor Smithers, you've come up on the right-hand side now. Sorry. Did you want to say something?
I'm all over the place, don't worry.
Yeah,
I just wanted to understand, Sandra, are you keeping a log of the delegated decisions that are being made throughout the pandemic as agreed in the previous authority that was given?
I am, but to be honest, I haven't had to take anything that's out of that's under that decision, because we've been able to meet regularly. But I am conscious, obviously, we're getting into another into the second wave now, so I would feel more comfortable if that was there just in case. But at the moment, I haven't had to use that authority anyway recently.
Right, so could we have a proposer that this is extended to January 2021? Councillor Redding, could we have a seconder? Councillor Whiting, and all those in favour, would you please show hands? Right. Thank you. Right. Item 14 on the agenda is Rushden East Board representation to agree a replacement substitute representative for Rushden East Board. Sandra, do you want to talk about this?
Yes, at the moment, Councillor Gardner is the substitute representative for Councillor Jackson, but because of the timing of the meeting, she is struggling to attend and has asked that this goes onto the agenda. We've also got to be conscious, I don't know what Councillor Jackson's position is going to be in the near future on the Rushden East Board, because if the planning application is submitted, he is also on the Planning Management Committee, so may well have to step back from the Rushden East Board. I don't know if he's had the advice yet on that.
Councillor Jackson, have you got a comment to
Yes,
make?
in actual fact, the leader of the council was a bit concerned about it. In fact, I think he was trying to use it because for some reason he's not too fond of me. And I think he was hoping that he could displace me. But of course, the advice that he sought, they said, as far as they're concerned, it's a question of the actual person decided one way or the other. They don't see any problems. So I can't see a problem. We've already had the one meeting when we were supposed to be discussing about the, obviously, 106 payments. So I see no problem. But likewise, I feel that we should, whoever comes forward to be the deputy, I feel that they should I should occasionally stand down, because there is no point in somebody being a deputy if they haven't ever taken part in any of the meetings. So I was going to suggest, I hadn't realised that Councillor Gardner was stepping down, but okay, that's a problem for her. But I would think the next one, it would be sensible for whoever takes the position up to actually attend that meeting.
Right, thank you. Councillor Gardner, you'd like to say something? You're on mute.
There we go. There we go. Yes, please. Yeah, it's childcare commitments that I have an issue with, but I do have a frustration. I've sat on many a meeting and sit on these meetings, and to be a deputy is one thing, but not have a voice, well, that's quite a different kettle of fish. So I think whoever would like to come on board needs to work with Councillor Jackson so we can really make our voices heard, because at the minute, sitting in the corner of a room and listening to a subject being discussed about the community that we live in and to have no voice is not a good place to be when you're trying. Yeah, it's very, very frustrating. So whoever would like to take this role on, please, somebody do, and please support Councillor Jackson.
Thank you. Councillor Whiting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think Angela's just answered my question. I was going to say, because when all this first started, Councillor Jackson used to go if Councillor Saunderson couldn't. Do I take it now then that deputy can go, but obviously just can't say anything?
Yes, I managed to negotiate with the leader that the deputy could be there as an observer like myself, because they hadn't been part of the project from the start. I suggested they needed to be there to try and get up to speed on what was happening, and that was agreed. So I don't see why that should be any different, but it is all on Teams as well, so it's not an issue to anybody listening who's a deputy.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's answered the question that, you know, was concerning me. Yes, I know what these sort of meetings can be. And yeah, I mean, if somebody would like to step forward, then, you know, I'm on that. I don't want to do it. So, you know, I think it really needs to be a more experienced councillor. I don't know whether anybody wants to do it. Or
The meetings are on a Monday afternoon, usually at 2 o'clock for a couple of hours, about once a month.
Right, okay.
I think it needs to be somebody who's knows the history of the Rushden East, and I was sort of rather hoping that Councillor Redding might step forward. Why are you shaking your head?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I suspect this is going to go on for some time, and I rather hope that by the time we're into the early part of next year, I will be departing for worthwhile work in Scotland. So
Right.
it would only be for a very short period of time. And I have to say, having listened to what's been going on, I think I'd be so frustrated I'd probably hurl my my computer out the window long before we got to the end of the first meeting.
Okay.
Exactly. My thoughts entirely.
I can't do it myself for the same reason of Angela's. It's so we are looking. Councillor Whiting.
Councillor O'Rourke likes to do it. I mean, you know what's been going on, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind, but I'd need to get more. I'd probably have a meeting with Councillor Jackson beforehand and everything to get me more up to speed on things. But I'd be quite happy to as a reserve. But I'd need a bit more, you know, probably information with Councillor Jackson, and you know, I know I've been listening to a lot of it, but a lot more in depth, I think.
I can certainly give it. Yeah, I gave Councillor Gardner some things to read when she took over, so I put together a pack.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we take it that there isn't anybody else who would like to stand against Councillor O'Rourke? So can we have a show? Can we have
knocking the door down, do they?
So can we have a show of hands that we all approve that Councillor O'Rourke stands for us? Thank you very much, Councillor O'Rourke.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right. Item 15 on the agenda is the change of zebra crossing to a pelican crossing at Kimbolton Road. To agree to the submission of a request to the Northamptonshire Highways to change the zebra crossing on Kimbolton Road to a pelican crossing, which is on pages 22 to 25 in your agenda pack. Has anybody got any comments that they want to make about this? Councillor Jackson.
I propose that we try and get the upgrade, because I've seen several children, unfortunately, they come rushing out of the Castle Fields straight onto it. They don't realise that although there is a speed indicator there, it's amazing how fast the cars come down that section of road. So I think a crossing has got to be an improvement.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. On a personal level, of having nearly had a very heated argument with a Builders fan, having nearly took me out yesterday, I completely agree. I think the evidence on this agenda item speaks for itself. I use that crossing daily, and I don't think there is a week that goes past when I don't see a near hit, or I haven't, you know, been involved in one. I think with the amount and volume of people and traffic, I think I agree with Councillor Jackson. If that's a proposal, Councillor, I'd like to second that, please.
Right, thank you. Has anybody got anything else they want to say?
Councillor Redding's got his hand up.
Councillor Redding, are you? Sorry, Councillor Redding.
All right, I'll unmute once I found the end of the mouse. It was just a question, really. Would there be a cost implication to this council?
Sorry.
Cost implication to the council?
Not at this stage. We're asking the county council to, I suppose, deliver the change. But knowing what the finances are like, I don't know whether, on the contrary, they'll come back and ask us for a contribution.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against it. I mean, I fully support the proposal there, but what I don't want to do is for us to sort of say we're pushing for this and then suddenly having to pull back because we've been asked to contribute tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds towards it. I know how expensive some of these things can be.
Thank you. Well, we've had the proposal, we've had it seconded. So all those in favour of going for the change from zebra to pelican, could you show your hands, please? Thank you. Item 16 on the agenda are memorial benches. 16.1, to consider a request for a memorial bench following a COVID-19 related death. The copy of this is on pages 26 and 27 in your agenda pack. Would you like to talk about this? Is this Alicia?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there's sort of two items for consideration. So the first item is the request that came for the memorial bench. That request came through in April, if members recall.
Yeah.
It was essentially a son who was asking for the placement of a memorial bench for his mother with a COVID-19 related death. I have spoken to him and suggested or asked him to have a think about possible locations if council were minded to allow a bench, and he hasn't come back to me. The lady was a resident of Higham, but she's not actually interred at the cemetery. I think she went through Kettering Crematorium, but that's as much as we know at the moment. So it was just whether you felt there was support for the placement of a bench.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you. I had a phone call on Friday from a member of the Higham Ferrers, or a resident of Higham Ferrers. Somebody was riding a moped type vehicle, we're not quite certain. And I happened to meet Councillor Gardner, on my way there. But later on, I thought, well, I will go to the Castle Fields and see if there was any damage. I couldn't see any, but in the meantime, I looked at the trim trail, then had a look at obviously the Three Oaks, and I thought, we put benches down various places in the Castle Fields, but we haven't got one anywhere near the trim trail. So I thought, surely this would be a good position for it, because parents, they tend to be younger children on the trim trail. So I thought possibly we could have a bench put there in memoriam, and also then it will enable the parents to sit there while their children are playing. That's my suggestion.
Okay.
Can I just come in on that? To put a bench in Castle Fields is not as quite straightforward as that. I know this Alicia is liaising with Historic England about the way we want to relocate one to Little Castle Fields, about the method of installation, because technically we have to put in for a Schedule Ancient Monument consent and then have an archaeologist on site. The wooden ones from the Oaks sit on the surface, so we didn't need to get any the consent, or because weren't actually digging into the ground on those ones. So there is a cost implication there, because it is expensive if we have to have an archaeologist on site.
Thank you. Councillor Prigmore.
Some of the memorial benches that I've seen around in other areas, rather than having the whole bench dedicated to one person, they have the benches have a little plaques on that people can get. They request to be put on the benches, and they put just a little silver plaque. And some of the ones I've seen had a dozen different little plaques on a single bench. I wonder whether that would be an idea to go forward.
Thank you, Councillor Prigmore. Councillor Whiting, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I've got great sympathy for this lad. I mean, he asked 6 months ago, and we said at the time we felt that we should wait in case there's any more deaths come up through COVID and get similar sort of requests. I think it's lovely that we can do that, and I think we should give him permission to do it. But I think looking at this table that we've got down here, we need seats in the cemetery, the play area, and Saffron Road either side of the football pitch. I think it would be nice if we could say to him, yes, you go ahead, the cost is all down to him, and let him choose which of them 3 locations. As Assistant Clerk said, if your mother's not buried in the cemetery, he might not want a seat in the cemetery. He'd probably look somewhere they could look out and see children playing and doing. And if it's difficult to put it in the Castle Fields, I think I'm going to propose that we say, yes, you can go ahead with it at your cost, and give him the option of one of these 3 situations and see where he wants to go.
Thank you. Can we have a second?
I'll
second that, Councillor Jackson. All those in favour of Councillor Whiting's proposals? Thank you. Councillor Paul, did you put your hand up there? Because I didn't see. Yeah, thank you. Right, and 16.2 is to consider the adoption of guidelines to handle future requests for memorial benches. This is on page 27. Has anybody got any comments, or Alicia, do you want to open a discussion about this?
Yes, this sort of actually follows on from the original request, and we felt it might be helpful because every so often we do get requests like that if the staff had some guidelines they could work to and any request came in that met those guidelines, we could go ahead and allow the bench. If it didn't meet the guidelines, then the request would come to full council for them to consider. So if you think that principle, the idea of the guidelines is good, and also whether you're happy with the suggested 7 points that are in those guidelines.
Right, thank you. Councillor Prigmore.
The only concern I've got with the guidelines is item 2. The deceased was a resident of Higham Ferries, or the deceased had lived out of the town for no more than 2 years at the time. Obviously, with people living for longer and longer periods, the possibility that a resident has lived in Higham for many, many years and then moved to a care home outside of Higham for several years is in a certain possibility. So to maybe to limit it to 2 years may in this present moment be not enough.
Thank you. Councillor Redding.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering, are items 1 and 2, or 1 certainly, is that exclusive? So in other words, if they're not buried or the ashes aren't interred in the cemetery, that immediately strikes them off having this bench, or because obviously, I mean, I'm not sure where this particular woman in the first section of this debate was, where her ashes actually are, but obviously they're not in the cemetery, or it seems that they're not in the cemetery, which would strike her son's request out immediately on that one. So is it and or between 1 and 2? I mean, can Alicia clear that up?
Well, we are developing the scattering of ashes area. The monument should be arriving any week soon, shouldn't it, Alicia? So it could be that the ashes are scattered in our cemetery, even if they're not interred. So, but yeah, I mean, does that have to be a criteria, Alicia?
It's a guideline. If they don't meet that guideline, then it just means we come to full council for you to consider the request. Item 2 in particular links back to the guidelines, well, the rules that we have for the cemetery.
Yeah.
So that item relates to the fees that are charged. I know in this case we're not charging like a fee scale. We are asking them to meet the cost, but it just links and tidies through with the cemetery guidelines. So that's why they're there. If you feel they should be worded slightly differently, then that's fine. But what I would say is it doesn't mean that the request will be refused. It just means the request comes through to you as a council to consider.
I think there's a possibility that somebody's husband is buried in our cemetery, but then somebody, you know, with children living away from Higham has gone to live near them, but actually wants her ashes back to where her husband is. So I can understand that 2 years, I can see, you know, with Councillor Prigmore, that 2 years is a bit of limiting. You know, for instance, if your children had moved up to Yorkshire and you moved there, but you wanted to come back because your husband's buried in our cemetery, well, I think that should be allowed. I think, yes, sorry.
I think what Alicia was saying, people who get buried in our cemetery have to pay non-resident fees if they haven't lived in the town for less, you know, if they've only moved away for 2 years. If they've lived away for 10 years and want to get married buried in the cemetery, they have to pay non-resident fees, and that's where the 2 years is linking back to the cemetery fees. So, and I think a lot of that is to do with people going into care homes. But it does, as Alicia says, it doesn't mean if somebody's lived away for 3 years, it doesn't mean it can then come to council for you to make the decision.
Right. Okay. So, Councillor Prigmore.
I think that we could discuss this forever, and I think that what Alicia says and Sandra is saying is perfectly correct, and that as a guide, as a starting point, is a very easy and wordable document. So I would propose that we accept this, and that any disputes then come to full council.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Spencer, and all those in favour, would you please show hands? Right, thank you. Thank you. Item 17 on the agenda is the office IT upgrade. To consider the office IT upgrade, it's on pages 28 to 33 in your agenda pack. Sandra, do you want to go through this?
I think I'm going to let the councillors debate this one. I mean, obviously we've had a working party which consisted of Councillor Reevy, Councillor Paul and Councillor Redding, who've all had presentation from this company, and we've discussed it over several meetings. This is where, following the IT working group, we've come up with this proposal for discussion.
Has anybody got any questions or any comments they'd like to make on it then? Councillor Smithers.
Yeah, I would just like to better understand what it is you're trying to achieve with the new IT infrastructure, because through that I couldn't really sort of find the chain, the golden thread of what it was you were trying to achieve, to be honest. I think, I see a bit about councillor emails, backups and document storage and so on, and you want to use MS365 and that, which is a great platform. And there seemed to be a whole debate about how you were going to host this. It was going to be hosted locally, which I would strongly not recommend. But you could hold it on a cloud solution. And I think from my experience, I would be saying that you need to be looking at a sort of a semi-national or certainly a large regional player to deal with this type of thing. Rather than a small IT company, which your report seems to refer to, because the potential for data loss is massive. The potential for data breaches is massive. So, if you have a big organisation watching over your data centre, there's a lot of them around the country. They will put in all the relevant security patches and have all the relevant stuff to stop the people trying to breach your server security. But if you just have a box sitting in the corner of the office hosted via a lease line or something along those lines, you really run the risk of being having the computer hacked, and also using a smaller IT-based company. Whilst they're brilliant while they're around and you get a good service from them, I'm not knocking the smaller IT companies by any way, shape, or form, but you will find that smaller companies do tend to disappear off the radar, don't tend to have holiday cover as much as obviously the big nationals have 24/7 cover. I just think you need to be really cautious with this, and also just really home in on what it is you're trying to achieve here, because the document didn't really seem to sort of have a real ambitious goal of where you wanted to get and how you were going to get to it, like a pathway, as to say. So I think you need to sort of look at all your systems and get a company in that could possibly manage or find a solution to hosting all the systems in one place, rather than having all these itsy bitsy bits here, there, everywhere. Just one system dealing with it all where possible.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
East Northants have quite a complicated system, 365 Outlook, and I'm afraid they still have problems with their computer systems. So I'm afraid even the Pentagon, they have problems that people hack them. So it doesn't matter how sophisticated you are, some people are able to get in. So you sometimes think, have we had that much problem?
No, I'm not saying anybody's tried to get in. I mean, ultimately, I think the council wants to go paperless, and using certainly MS365, they have this SharePoint, which will make that much easier for councillors. And if councillors have the MS365, the Lightbyte, it makes the systems integrate much better. But it's just trying to get, I suppose, bring the council a bit further with its IT. I mean, when I first started as a clerk, I was on a typewriter, but since I've been at Higham, we were on original desktop computers, everything there on the hard drive. We now have this Synology drive that sits in the office and is backed up to a cloud. We need to go the next step that makes it much easier, especially when we're remote working, for sharing files. Because at the moment, the way we have to we can log into it remotely, but Alicia could be working on the same document as myself, and we don't know because we've had to download it to our hard drive and then put it back up again. And I just think by using something like MS365, which I think is probably the way to go, it's probably ultimately which company we're going to use to help manage it, will be much more collaborative working. It will be much better for the council going forward. And I'm just trying to improve things. I mean, I'm no IT expert, and that's why we're looking to have a company, because I don't want to be involved in trying to transfer all our files to another system and potentially lose some, and also to make sure we have a system there when staff change, staff are sick or on holiday, there's somebody else there, but monitoring our systems. I mean, the email we changed to, I must admit, at the beginning of lockdown, we're managed on MS Exchange now, is really much improved on terms of stopping spam email, and also it picked up the most recent attack on Tina's email and warned us that somebody was trying to use sort of a spam an email there that somebody had made up. So, but this is one company, as Councillor Smithers has said. Yes, we can look at other companies and come back with a proposal, but I'm a bit reluctant to spend a lot more time with the working group on that if it's not something where the council wants to go.
Can I just bring in Councillor Paul, because he had his hand up as well? Yeah, Councillor Paul.
Yeah, it was mainly in response to Councillor Smithers' comments. Jason, I completely understand where you're coming from. Having sat in on all of these meetings, we have addressed all of those concerns. In addition to the backup Office 365, this company has dealt with various councils up and down the country before. They have longevity. They've been in business for 20 years. They have a 24-hour helpline. It does really tick all the boxes. I was on the fence as well when we scheduled a call with them, just purely because it's a locally based service provider, and I myself go with an internationally based service provider. However, they seem to be geared up for councils. It is a good offering. I'm sure we can sharpen the pencil on the money that they're asking for, as we hinted to in the meeting. But yeah, I think it's a massive step in the right direction compared to where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, through you, Chair. I'm quite relaxed on, if there is an SLA in place which allows for 24-hour coverage and that. But the point that I was really trying to sort of labour across there was that we need to find out where you're trying to head with this IT, Sandra, what it is you're looking to do. Now, 365 is brilliant, and it's going to be the platform of the new Northants Unitary, subject to being voted in, should I say. Not trying to preempt any decision, but it is going to be the platform that the new two unitaries are set up upon, and that integrated with some Huddle as well, which will make for document sharing and emails and everything very, very simple. So I'm guessing really I'm just trying to better understand what it is you're trying to achieve. 365 is great for it. And if we can get a decent hosting provider that can host the system remotely, I guess, so I'm assuming that's what the options are. And if we can do that and you've got the IT support and the SLA in place, then I don't see them as an issue if that company's been going for many a year. There's no reason why they wouldn't continue, but just try to better understand where you're heading with it, that's all.
Thank you. Councillor Prigmore, do you still want to make some comment?
Yes, I can understand where Sandra's going, quite honestly, and as much as that we need to move forward into the 21st century, which at the moment we're not there. I mean, looking at the costs of this, as an initial setup cost for the first year of just under £5,500, and then a running cost each year of just under £4,500. Is that correct, Sandra?
No, well, the setup costs, there's one-off costs of 2,850.
Yeah,
and then
a
you've
yearly
got
cost
2,486.40. Yeah,
which comes to 5,300 odd.
Yeah. So
and then you've got current costs are to continue of approximately 1,800. So therefore, you're talking to just over just 4,200 quid. My concern is that I've got no concern with upgrading our systems. My concern is that every single item on the agenda has been about paying out money, and maybe we should be starting to look at how we're going to save money, because we never seem to do that.
Well, I thought one of your wishes is that we went paperless. This
yeah,
would
but
help
going
us to go
paperless, just because we should be looking to go paperless doesn't mean that we should spend excessive amount of money to get there and then achieve no saving at all. The whole idea of going paperless in many respects is to save money long term. My argument is that every item on the agenda is purely and simply paying out, and going forward with the budget coming up and the new rates preset being set, we should be looking to save
Madam Mayor, sorry,
well.
Point of order. I mean, we're digressing onto budgets and everything now. I mean, I'm getting what Councillor Prigmore is saying about saving money, but we're really digressing off what we're trying to achieve here. And in the light of things, the sums of money that are being quoted are not that expensive for IT projects, I can assure you. But yeah. But just, I think we need to stick on the matter of the subject, that if we're going to look to give the clerk the move to look at investment.
Thank you,
Can I suggest then perhaps, I mean, with the council, there's another company that I think deals with councils as well. Well, they've contacted me. It's called Prism, which I think is a bigger company. In one way, I like this company, seems very approachable. You seem to have good support. I sometimes worry with the very big companies that you sometimes miss out as the little company, but also perhaps try and sort of express a bit more clearly where I'm trying to get to with the project.
Okay. Councillor Redding, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Rather like VJ, Councillor Paul, I was quite impressed. I think you were quite impressed with what apart from one or two hiccups we had at the beginning, which I think were mostly down to Councillor Paul's equipment rather than anybody else's. I mean, the
coffee was good though. The coffee was good.
Their coffee was very good. I was very impressed with them. One of the things is, obviously, I mean, without having another discussion on budgets, I mean, Councillor Prigmore was quite right. Everything on our budget, on our agendas, is always we're spending money. But basically, that's what we're here to do, in a way. We don't have any way of increasing revenue. We're not a business. We're taking money from ratepayers, council taxpayers, and we spend it, and we try to do it the best we can. One of the best ways we can do it is by making our office more efficient. And to do that, we need to cut back on paper. We've been forced into doing things like this online due to other circumstances. Some of you will remember that I think it's only 4, maybe 5, 6 years ago. I'm trying to remember how long ago the last election was now, but that we were discussing how to move councillors onto using something like tablets. And we're only really starting to look at it now. And it's being forced onto us because of the circumstances. I've always wanted to see a lot more online, especially as I could get that stuff when I was away, and I was away quite regularly, as most of you know. And getting agendas and everything else online would have worked fantastically for me. And if we had this system and were allowed to do this in the future, I could still attend meetings from Scotland or wherever I happen to be. So could other councillors. Regards the costings and what we're going to do, we did have a long conversation about moving everything over in-house. However, as was quite firmly pointed out by both the clerk and the assistant clerk, was that increased their workload. What happened if it went wrong? We got no fallback solution. At least if we're doing it with a company with a fallback solution, if we lose a file, they will know where it is, they can find it. I have suggested to Sandra various things to help us tidy it up before we start transferring everything. After we did this, I then discovered, partially because my younger son got a new job, and the company he's working for is what you call a Google company. Everything is done on Google. However, that may well be cheaper than Office 365 or Microsoft 365. However, it would mean going right back to start and relearning how to operate those systems and transferring a lot over. So I think we've got to stick with Microsoft programs to infrastructure to run this, which is why we've come up with, or we've seen the MS 365. Where do we want to go to in the future? We want to be more electronic. I think we've got to have the ability for councillors to get up-to-date information ready for their meetings, as we do now with the budget or the payments that need to be agreed, rather than turning up at a council meeting and having it prompt in front of you on a piece of paper minutes before the meeting starts. Those probably aren't quite as important as some of the other stuff we get left in front of us at the last minute. There's an enormous amount of paper that is used. I don't know about anybody else at the meeting tonight, but I haven't bothered printing a single thing out. I have the ability, rather like Councillor Paul has, and probably Councillor Smithers, I'm not sure about his system. I've got 2 screens, so I put one lot with pictures of all you beautiful people in front of me, and the other one's got all the paperwork on it, so I can switch between them. I'm not suggesting that you all need to go that way. That's the way I'm working, and it's the way I believe Councillor Paul's working. But we can then have much more information fed to us without us wasting money on paper. Makes us more environmentally friendly. We save some cost there. Yes, these costs will run on, but everything else we do will run on. We've just spent a lot of money on replacing our printer stroke photocopier. Well, hopefully, if we can move on to a more paperless based system, we don't need to replace our photocopier printer every 2 years or whatever it is we're doing at the moment. We might be looking at doubling the time for that. Therefore, there is a saving there. I think we've got to keep looking at this. Security comes into it. Yes, if we need to back things up, we can do that. We can do it off site. It's backed up, and many of these places, and I can't remember, this company said the same, they back up in one place, but they also back up the backup, and that's done quite regularly. We've got a future thing. Do we supply, and it's not a conversation tonight probably, but do we supply councillors with some form of tablet if they haven't got one? And we're also looking at possibly allowing them to have online, because it's the cheapest way of doing it, copies of Word and Excel, so all those sort of things. So we're not giving a councillor free access to this stuff, except when they're a councillor. and the emails are to stop. And many of us have got our emails out there now. Sometimes I wish I didn't, but we've got our emails out there, and we go onto a councillor email. That's the way you're contacted, and it means you can ignore anything that comes to you privately from residents. It's all done that way. And once you stop being a councillor, all those emails stop. That is the sort of general outline of the way we want to go.
Right.
We did
Thank
get a
you.
demonstration from Alicia of how difficult, I think it was Alicia, how difficult it was for them currently to get online and look at documents. And we've got to speed that up. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Redding. Sandra, do you want us to vote on, we obviously want to vote on whether we want to upgrade our office IT, but do you want to look at somebody else before? Do you want to look at another company? Do you want to have a vote that yes, we agree that we need to upgrade the office IT, and then look at another company to compare with the one we've seen? I'm not quite sure which way you want it to go now.
I think that's over to the council which way they want to go with this. I mean, there is another company I can go and talk to. I believe they're a bigger company,
right,
than this. I mean, obviously, I've got costs of what I think it was Oundle.
Okay, Councillor Paul, can I bring you in now?
Yeah, and the IT committee, Sandra, again, for the benefit of the full council, we looked at 3 companies when we looked initially at this scope, and we chose one of those 3 companies. I don't see the merit in going backwards and then going to another company now to re-engage at the next IT committee, and then bringing it to full council again. I think we have a fairly robust proposal here, and I think we should carry on and vote it in. So I propose that we go with this proposal.
Right. Okay. So would you like to propose that then, Vijay, please?
Yes. So I propose that we go with the proposal that Sandra has prepared from the company for the £2,850 to start off with, and the regular.
Thank you.
Of 1175.
Right. Could I have a seconder for that proposal, please? Councillor Brown. Thank you. All those in favour of the proposal, could you show hands, please? Right. Thank you. Anyone against? Councillor Prigmore. Anybody abstaining? You're abstaining, Councillor Spencer? Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you. I think the motion is carried, I think. Right. Item 18 is the ENC consultation local plan part 2 to agree to a response to the local plan part 2 consultation, which is on pages 34 to 43 in your agenda pack. And Sandra, you're going to speak on this.
Yeah, this is another consultation for the local plan part 2, and it's specifically on 2 elements of it. Originally they proposed to put land for 450 houses to I think it was the west of Rushton Lakes, and because of various objections on that, they're now proposing to put 450 dwellings to the land east of A6 bypass on Bedford Road. And the other one, they've decided to incorporate the Rushton East Master Plan as part of the local plan part 2, partly because they realised the boundaries of the Rushton East extend outside of the original boundary of indicative search that was agreed in the core strategy, and also because they want to make sure some of the policies a bit more firm. They originally consulted on the Rushton East Master Plan back in March, and we submitted a very robust comment at that time. They haven't changed the master plan in any shape or form, and as far as I'm aware, I've not commented on what we submitted previously. We do need to, as a minimum, submit what we did previously, but I'm also suggesting, certainly on Rushton East, we go back and sort of just remind them of some of the history of what the council has said about the boundaries for Rushton East, because it is much it's extending towards Chelveston Road much further than we ever anticipated. And right from the very start, when we were consulted on the core strategy, we were very supportive of Rushton East as long as the development was further up towards Rushton and not down towards High Ferrers End.
Thank you. So, has anybody else got anything they wish to say? Councillor Jackson.
For some time, I've been saying to the Rushton East Board that you are exceeding the boundaries, and they have all stated, no, we haven't. And yet you think you can see the drawings that were first given to us, and they've exceeded, and they've just carried on, but they've just taken no notice whatsoever. This is the annoying thing. So whatever we can do to try and bring it back to a more reasonable position as it was or should have been, and what we were told we would be getting, I'm all for.
Thank you. Right. Has anybody got a proposal they want to make then on this?
Can I just ask something?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The 450 houses, are they? Is that the one at Manor Park? Is that where it's going to be? What is the rugby club now? Is it on that land? Is that the land?
No, it's
because they're building homes on that. When they sell their ground, they're building homes on that, aren't they?
Yes.
Yes, that's a separate planning permission, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe that's
separate.
already. Yeah, I believe that's already allocated in Rushton's neighbourhood.
These 450 are different. Yeah, okay.
They are different, but it will
This
impact
is near
on
the golf
Sorry,
course.
can you?
Sorry,
Sandra, can you speak, please?
Yeah, all I would say is that because it's this side of Rushton now, it will impact obviously on the A6, whereas we didn't object to the houses to the west of Rushton Lakes because it really didn't have so much of an impact on Higham, but this may well have a bit more of an impact.
Okay.
Right, thank you. Councillor Prigmore, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that this is the rugby pitch is being moved alongside this development. Will that be part and parcel of our comments? Because obviously that will increase traffic and everything else.
The rugby pitch has already been submitted, hasn't it, as part of the...
It was part and parcel of the planning, whether that was discussed at the planning as well.
Councillor Jackson.
It is east of the A6. The new site for the rugby club is east, just where the roundabout, the Bedford roundabout, the far end, to the left-hand side, that is the ground that is proposed for the new rugby club. There.
Thank you. Right. Sandra, do you, are you now afraid with what the response should be?
I think I could do, if the councils are so minded, I need a proposal to confirm that you wish me to submit the Rushton East comments that we'd made previously, and also expanding on the issues, read the boundaries, but also perhaps making some comments on the 450 houses and concern about the impact probably on the highways network.
Right, thank you. Councillor Prigmore?
Can I propose then that we send off the same comments that we made, and that Sandra, under her delegation powers, upgrades to how she feels is correct?
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Second that. All those in favour, will you please show hands? Right, thank you. I'm aware that it's 9 o'clock, councillors. Can I just ask if you would like to continue till we're finished? We're nearly there. Shall we continue?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you show hands if you're happy to continue? Right, thank you. Item 19 on the agenda is Phase 5 Kingsmeadow Lane, to agree to seal the transfer deed with David Wilson Homes for Phase 5 Kingsmeadow Lane, which is on page 44 in your agenda pack. Does anybody have any comment to make on this? Councillor Prigmore.
Is the town clerk happy with everything that's gone on so far?
Well, we were hoping to complete next week, but that's unlikely now because I'm still finalising the commuted sum, which had to be index linked since 2004. If we have it sealed and it's with the solicitor, we won't complete till we are absolutely happy to complete. But it's a bit like signing your contracts when you're buying a house. You've then got the legal work ready.
Right. Councillor Prigmore.
Can I therefore suggest that we accept the proposal that the council is asked to agree that the deed be sealed with the signatories of the mayor and town clerk, as and when the town clerk is satisfied and 100% happy?
I'll second that.
Could I have a seconder? Councillor Jackson, thank you. All those in favour, would you please show hands? Thank you. Item 20 on the agenda is the Town and Farmers Market Working Party to agree the minutes of the Town and Farmers Working Party. Angela, you're going to present these, aren't you? On page 45, 46 on your agenda pack.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. To receive the minutes of the Higham Ferries Town and Farmers Market Working Party. Can I have a prose for that, please? Thank you. Okay, I'm sure you've all read these minutes, so I'll just do this briefly. I'm minded at the time. On item number 3, fortnightly meetings are being held with the head of economic development, Greg McDonald, with ENC. These have been a really helpful resource for the council, as well as our town manager. And they think that it's really helping bringing councils together and to have that communication on how to go forward and support each other. We've all heard and now seen the results of the co-op best lay-by, and that is to facilitate better social distances, as we know that there is crowding around the co-op area. The farmers market, we were really pleased that we are being approached now by different stallholders to come onto the market, and it's been lovely to have lots of councillors' support and also to have support from members of the public. Social distancing has really been monitored there, one-way traffic as it were. Also hand sanitisers are being put in at the entrances to remind the community to hand sanitise on the way round, and we speak to them and so they understand the one way. So that's gone down really, really well. We are continuing, as it says in item 5, to promote local businesses, and we've been discussing how we best can support local businesses going forward. And this will be on all different platforms of social media that we can help and support them, and asking their feedback on how we can help them and vice versa. Item 6 was talking about the Rushton Lakes, and of course we've talked about how Christmas will be different. And we've got new meetings coming up and they are going to be arranged and communicated to us. So if there isn't any questions, I'll ask for these minutes to be adopted, please, so we can move on.
Thank you. Hands, please, we adopt the minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and 20.2 is to agree to the purchase of items to assist with the promotions of the town, which is on page 47 and 48. Right, has anybody got anything they want to say about this? No. In that case, can I just propose that we purchase these items then? Sorry, Angela, go. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was going to propose the same, but you beat me to it, so I'll second you.
Right. Okay. So it's proposed and seconded by Councillor Gardner and Councillor Whiting. All those in favour, would you please show hands? Thank you. Item 21 is the closure of the meeting to the public and press, to resolve that in accordance with section 1.2 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, and by reason of the confidential nature of the following items of the business, the press and the public be excluded from the meeting.